the younger brother is accusing the older brother of being big brother now.
Yes.
So it's a fascinating thing to watch for Singaporean society, having lived there as well. Do you think that they will face any ramifications from what they're doing? Because they essentially have taken it to the court of public opinion as opposed to playing it out in family courts.
Well, more leaders are expected to arrive today for the ASEAN summit.
It's day 24 since the crisis in Marawi began, where militants from the mounted group raised the black flag of the Islamic State in the city. Reports of gunshots and explosion at the casino complex. Our correspondent, Angel Movido, is there. She's joining us on the line. Angel, can you answer any of the questions that we have here? You, of course, became the international face of the movement at just 17 years old. Some people do say, how successful was it? The Philippines is the only country in the Asia-Pacific region where teen pregnancy rates rose over the last 2 decades. We're hearing from women rights groups about how big of concern this is, because it doesn't just affect the poor, it affects everyone. I wanted to challenge your perception that these drugs or these products were not approved. Are you talking about they weren't approved by the FDA here in the Philippines?
Major problems.
But
Health problems
not the implants then, but what about the pills and, the hormone injections that have already been, used in this country? They've been in the market for a long time.
The U.S. is a very strong, wanted ally in this region to be a counterforce for rising China. Why do you think the U.S. has taken a little bit of a backseat to getting involved? That's what the criticisms are, that they haven't been doing much to really kind of show their support of the allies here. We have special coverage of the 30th ASEAN Summit taking place right here. Brunei Sultan Hassan Al Bolkiah has arrived. We have a full day packed. It looks like the parade of delegates will be arriving throughout the hour. Myanmar and the Philippines, interesting relationship. Myanmar, as you know, starting to open its markets as well. Young democracy, talking to a more established democracy.
Not exactly, but he did indicate that it would be on the more bilateral approach, which we know is the approach that Trump prefers to use in dealing with nations, feeling that it's more effective, say, than on multilateral levels. So the details will still have to be hashed out. Of course, a lot of people questioning the speech, dissecting it.
U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis and some American senators weighed in on the situation here, suggesting that there should be more U.S. involvement. Do you think that's what's needed to curb the rise of ISIS here in the Philippines? Theresa May's plan backfired because she really wanted to consolidate the seats and get a majority and be able to have a stronger position going into Brexit negotiations, which are on June 19th. So what does this mean for the UK in terms of trying to get a better deal out of this? How likely is that, considering how powerful that basis that is anti-immigrant or anti-globalization, anti-EU, a lot of these people can show up at the polls and show their strength? Is there a likely upset there? He did criticize Comey for politicizing his FBI role, saying that he failed to follow DOJ protocols, he had become arrogant, he compromised the FBI's reputation. So do you think this is really a case about Trump running the White House like a business and then retaliating against an employee that he can't control? So what makes the Shangri-La Dialogue or the Asia Security Summit so unique is the fact that it brings together the world's defense leaders, top military brass. We're talking about the people that make the decisions on national security, global peace. They are here, and essentially they engage in a sort of war of words sometimes over heated topics in the region like North Korea, the South China Sea, and for sure Islamic State and the rise of terrorism here in Asia. This is the 16th edition, organized by London-based think tank, the International Institute for Strategic Studies, as well as the Singapore government. More than 500 delegates are expected to attend the 3-day event. Among them, defense ministers, academics, business executives from nearly 40 countries, including the U.S., China, the Philippines, of course, and France. Friday's agenda featured bilateral meetings and an opening keynote by Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. Here's what he had to say.
Some have been concerned that the withdrawal from the TPP and now from the Paris Climate Change Agreement, herald a US withdrawal from global leadership. While these decisions are disappointing, we should take care not to rush to interpret an intent to engage on different terms as one not to engage at all.
Okay, on Saturday at 9 a.m., U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis will address delegates. A lot of anticipation about what he will be saying. They are expecting it to be a U.S. policy speech for the Asia Pacific. So a lot of people looking to hear about what the U.S. policy toward this region will be under President Trump. We expect him to talk about North Korea, of course, considering that the U.S. recently did a test of its missile defense system, successfully intercepting an intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM. And of course, they're going to again talk about the South China Sea with the first freedom of navigation operation under President Trump just completed. A lot of people talking about that as a challenge to China because it was near its artificial island at Mischief Reef. Also, we're going to be listening for, of course, any comments on the global fight against extremism and the Islamic State. As we know, there are recent terror attacks at Manchester, Bangkok, Jakarta. So people looking for some indication on how the U.S. will address all of that. Typically, this is a male-dominated conference, a lot of testosterone here, but we're going to actually have an all-female defense minister panel about upholding the rules-based regional order. They're going to be the defense ministers from Japan, Australia, and France. Chinese military officials, meantime, taking part in some breakout sessions on Saturday afternoon. A lot of people looking forward to that, but noting that China did not send one of its senior officials from the PLA, saying that that was a missed opportunity, especially with everything that's going on in this region. Some speculating that it's the reason why is because they don't want to face a lot of the questions that are part of this type of dialogue. But the organizers did say that the reason why is because they've been focusing on their own, reshuffle of the PLA, and they decided to send lower level officials to the summit. Philippine Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana canceled his trip here. He was supposed to address delegates, but because of the ongoing crisis at home, he decided to stay home, and undersecretaries will be here in his place to discuss the topics of regional security for the delegates. In Singapore at the Shangri-La Dialogue Asia Security Summit, I'm Annalisa Burgos for ABS-CBN News.
Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, the eldest son of the country's founding father, Lee Kuan Yew, is facing the first credible opposition to his rule. But it's from the unlikeliest of sources and forums. On Facebook, Lee's brother, Hsien Yang, and sister Wei Ling have accused their older brother of abusing his power for personal gain and acting literally like Big Brother. They posted statements and personal emails in a public family feud that's captivating netizens.
There is no formidable opposition party or opposition figure in Singapore. So this is pretty much the de facto challenge that the government has to face, that the Prime Minister has to face, and it just so happened to be his own blood. Whether the accusations are true or not, who has more to lose is my question.
Local journalists say the irony is not lost on Singaporeans.
There's also this strange irony of Lee Kuan Yew's children, two of his children, claiming that there's repression, that there's threats, and saying, that this is, about the Singapore people, and we have got to fight against the oppression of our brother, as if, their father's legacy wasn't oppressive. And it's really strange, like this whole thing has blown up on Facebook because they can't trust the local mainstream media. But who clamped down on the local mainstream media and made it, what it is today? And so it seems as if they're waking up to this idea that, the system has come back to bite them, and then now they're really unhappy about it. If he does sue them, then it's going to get even bigger play across the international media that, the Prime Minister of Singapore is suing his own siblings. It's going to prove them right when they say that he's repressive, and it's going to make it look like he is using his power for his personal goals. But if he doesn't sue them, it means that they're getting away with saying things that no other Singaporean will be able to say. In fact, a lot of the allegations that they've made people have been sued for much less before already. So it seems as if at the moment they are getting away with saying a lot that no other Singaporean would survive saying.
Unlike other sibling rivalries, this one threatens the image of Singapore's political system, one that other countries like the Philippines have come to admire for its efficiency and absence of corruption. Lee Kuan Yew and his ruling party earned respect for running a meritocracy that values rule of law. So any perceived nepotism or conflicts of interest threaten the government's credibility. But while Singapore's international brand could take a hit, don't expect any changes to local politics.
At the end of the day, they will always side with the people or the party or the government that's given them their current comfortable living, the current stability of the country. So, we've seen this throughout many election cycles. There will be a lot of loud opposition before the election, but at the ballot box, voters still end up voting for what they're familiar with.
Prime Minister Lee will take questions in Parliament on July 3rd to address the controversy and defend his reputation.
I deeply regret that this dispute has affected Singapore's reputation and Singaporeans' confidence in the government. As your Prime Minister, I apologize to you.
And for the normally drama-free city-state, everyone will be watching what Big Brother will do.